Hello students, good morning. Welcome back to my channel Madhupita Das. Today's topic is kinds of or degrees of price elasticity of demand. We had done the definition of price elasticity in the last class, and we had learned that price elasticity of demand is nothing but the ratio or percentage change of quantity demanded to the percentage change in price of a commodity. That means how does demand respond or react back to the changes in price of a commodity. That is called as price elasticity of demand. Now, the reaction of demand for the change in price happens in different levels or happens in uh, different types of degrees. Okay, so that is why this concept, that is degree of price elasticity of demand. Degree is nothing but the different types of price elasticity of demand. Okay, so the very first type is perfectly inelastic demand. Perfectly inelastic demand. Now, what is the meaning of perfectly inelastic demand? Perfectly inelastic demand is that type of demand wherein there is a change in price but there is no change in demand. Can anybody give me an example of such type of a commodity where if there is a change in the price, it does not matter to us, we will whatsoever demand the commodity. For example, we could give here essential commodities like medicines, like basic commodities, like food. Okay, are we going to compromise on essential products like matchbox, like medicines, like rice, wheat? All these are essential commodities, right? So we are not going to compromise whatsoever, even if the price of such products change. Yes, so perfectly inelastic demand is that type of demand wherein there is no change in demand even if there is a change in price. Okay, so there is no change in demand, so it is a type of demand. Just write the definition. It is a type of demand where there is no change in. Okay, so perfectly inelastic demand is that type of demand which says that it is that type of demand which tells us that there is no change in quantity demanded for a commodity with changes in price. This happens, for examples you can give essential commodities. Okay, essential commodities. Okay, whichever commodities are bare minimum essential for our livelihood, for our living, those will fall under this category of perfectly inelastic demand. Okay, so perfectly inelastic demand is there is no reaction of demand to price. There is price cannot impact the demand, or demand does not respond to the changes in price of commodity. If the price of matchbox changes from 1 rupee to 2 rupee, will you change your demand pattern for matchbox? Definitely not. You will definitely buy it. If the price of a medicine changes from 100 rupee to 102 rupee or 110 rupee, will you not demand the medicine because that is bare essential for your body, for your health? You will definitely do that, right? So perfectly inelastic demand is that type of demand wherein demand does not respond to changes in price of a commodity. Now, next is so how do we draw the demand curve for such type of a demand degree? So like for example here on the x-axis and y-axis, okay, we are putting x, we are putting y. Very, very important to mark the axis in economics. Okay, so now here we are showing quantity demanded for the commodity. Okay, on the x-axis, what are we showing here? We are showing the price of a commodity. Okay, and perfectly inelastic demand curve is always a straight vertical line. This is the demand curve. Okay, it is a straight vertical line parallel to the y-axis. Remember, okay, DD demand curve. DD demand curve is parallel to y-axis. We can see it here in the diagram. Okay, that means The demand remain constant even if there are changes in price. Price can be P, P1, P2, but there is no difference in demand. Demand remains OQ. Okay. Now coming to the second type. Coming to the second type, perfectly elastic demand. Now what is this type of demand? It is a type of demand wherein there is unlimited change. Unlimited change in demand with slightest change in price. That means even if price changes little bit also, demand will respond back in an unlimited way, in an infinite way. Okay, there's an unlimited reaction of demand to the change in price. For example, let us take the case of perfectly inelastic and elastic. I'll try to explain you in a better way. For example, you had a fight with your friend. Okay, now if you had a fight with your friend, say in case of perfectly inelastic demand, your friend is torturing you, he or she is fighting with you, but you do not respond, you do not react to your friends fights. Okay, in case of perfectly elastic demand, when your friend is trying to tell you something, or your friend is trying to fight with you, pick up a fight with you, you are responding in an unlimited way. That is called as perfectly elastic demand. Okay, when your reaction is unlimited, okay, when you respond in an unlimited way. So here elastic means the reaction is more. Okay, and it perfectly elastic means reaction is unlimited. So demand reacts in an unlimited way. Okay, there's unlimited change in demand with the slightest change in price of the commodity. So how will be the demand curve here? The demand curve here will be just the opposite. It will be parallel to the x-axis. Okay, so if the price little bit also it changes, the demand is changing in an unlimited way. So it could be Q, it could be OQ1, it could be OQ2, it could be OK3. Demand responds in an unlimited way. So always remember, in perfectly elastic demand, DD demand curve is parallel to the x-axis. In case of perfectly inelastic demand, it was parallel to the y-axis. Now it is parallel to the x-axis. Now coming to the third one. Third one is elastic demand or relatively elastic demand. Elastic demand, relatively elastic demand, positively elastic demand, these are all the same. Okay, they are the same definition but have been given different names. They are the same terms: relatively elastic or positively elastic. They are all the same. So I'll be now talking about positively elastic or relatively elastic. Okay, third one is relatively elastic demand. Now what is that? Relatively elastic demand is a type of demand when there is greater change in demand. Okay, change in demand is greater in ratio, in percentage with a change in price. Let's say change in price changes by 5%, there is a change in demand by 10%. Or price changes by 2%, there is a change in demand of 4%. Or maybe 5%. So demand change is greater than price change, and that is why it is called as elastic demand. Relatively elastic demand, also called as more elastic demand, or it is only called as elastic demand. So these are different terms used for the same definition. Okay, so don't get confused if it's more elastic, relatively elastic, positively elastic. These are all the same things, or just elastic. Okay, so it's a type of demand where there is greater change in demand with a change in price. I've already given you the example. Your friend has fought with you. So friend has fought with you, say for 5%. There's a fight from the side of your friend, but you try to react in on a ratio of 10%. Okay, 5% reaction from your friend, but you are reacting in a more violent way, and you are trying to fight with your friend in a more broader way. So that is, say, called as relatively elastic demand. So your reaction is more in response to the fight of your friend. So that is called as relatively elastic demand. So how will be the demand curve here? The demand curve here will be, see here, P is the price, Q is the quantity. Okay, now the reaction of demand will be more. Okay, reaction of demand will be more. How will it be? See, now you see here, price say falls down to P1. So the reaction of demand is more. Quantity demanded is Q1, yes or no? So here P was the earlier initial price and Q was the initial quantity demanded. Now when the price falls to P1, the quantity demanded increases to Q1. But you see the change, but what is the change in price? Change in price is PP1 and the change in quantity demanded is QQ1. Which one do you think is greater? Definitely QQ1 is greater than PP1 because the change in quantity demanded has to be greater than change in price. So what shape of demand curve will it be? It will be a flat demand curve. Okay, demand curve in relatively elastic demand will be always flat in shape. Okay, DD is a flat shaped demand curve. Remember this, whenever demand is more elastic, it is flatter in shape. Okay, so this is also replicated as symbolically elasticity, price elasticity is greater than 1. Okay, I forgot to tell you all, in case of perfectly inelastic, the symbolical representation is price elasticity is equal to 0 because there is no change in demand. Okay, in case of perfectly elastic demand, we replicate or we symbolize it as PE is equal to infinity. Okay, because there is unlimited change in demand, so the PE is equal to infinity. Here PE is greater than 1. Why it is greater than 1? Because there is a greater change in demand in comparison to the change in price. Okay, now next one is perfectly inelastic demand. No, sorry, relatively inelastic demand. Okay, the fourth one is called as relatively inelastic. Now what is the meaning of relatively inelastic? It will be just the opposite of relatively elastic. This we also call as less elastic demand. Okay, less elastic, inelastic, relatively elastic, all are the same. Okay, now it is a type of demand where there is lesser change in demand. Okay, there is not greater. In case of relatively elastic, there's a greater change. Here it is lesser change in demand with a change in price. Okay, how will be the demand curve here? Remember the definition once again. I am telling you, relatively inelastic demand is a demand when there is a lesser change in demand with a change in price. Here the demand curve will be not flat. Here the demand curve will be steep. Okay, it will be steeper in shape. How? Let us see. So this is quantity demanded, yes or no? Isn't it? This is quantity demanded, x-axis, y-axis is price. Just remove all these things. And let's say price is this, quantity is this, P, and this is Q. Now there is a lesser change in demand when we compare it with change in price. Lesser change in demand, so the price change has to be greater. Let's make this as the price change and the quantity change is this. So P1 and Q1. So you can see the price change is greater in comparison to the demand change. QQ1 is lesser than. QQ1 has to be lesser than PP1 in this kind of demand degree. Okay, so how will be the demand curve? Demand curve will be steep in shape. It is a steep demand curve. DD is a steep demand curve. Understood? Yes or no? Isn't it? It is a steep demand curve. Now, what do we symbolize it? Price elasticity is lesser than 1. We symbolize it as price elasticity is less than 1 in case of relatively inelastic. In case of relatively elastic, what do we symbolize? We symbolize as price elasticity is greater than 1. Okay. Now the last one which is left, that is unitary. Okay, the fifth one and the last one, unitary elastic demand, the fifth one. Unitary elastic demand. Now what do you mean by unitary elastic demand? Unitary elastic demand means where there is equal change in demand with a change in price. Very, very simple. There's a 1% change in price. There's a 1% change in demand. There's a 5% change in price. There's a 5% change in demand. So basically, in case of unitary elastic demand, the demand change and the price change is equal. Your friend has fought with you. He's told you 2 bad words. You have also, replied him back with 2 bad words. So equal reaction from your friend as well as from you. That is called as unitary elastic demand. How do we symbolize it? Symbolic representation is in case of unitary elastic, we write it as unitary elastic. Let me rub this on. Unitary elastic means elasticity, price elasticity should be equal to 1. That means the change in price is equal to the change in demand. So how will be the shape here? The demand shape, curve shape also will change. Okay. So we have to show that there is an equal change in price and there is an equal change in demand. So let's say first the price is this P and this is Q. Now there has to be equal proportionate change. Now if the change in price is P1, so change in demand also has to be similar, Q1. I hope this, you can do the measurement. If you are keeping this as 2 centimeter or 3 centimeter, keep this change also as 2 centimeter or 3 centimeter. So basically the demand curve is of the shape of a rectangular hyperbola. Okay, the demand curve is a rectangular hyperbola. Rectangular hyperbola. So basically this is the shape of a unitary elastic demand curve. And how do we symbolize it? As PE equal to 1. I hope this topic is clear to you. We are left with now methods of measurement, and also we have to do the factors of elasticity of demand. In my next class, I'll be trying to cover this. Thank you so much, all of you.